from Motorcycle and Powersports News, and I want to welcome you to this MPN Dealer Excellence session, Harnessing the Power of AI. Ways dealers can leverage AI to improve overall business operations. We really appreciate you being here on the final day of the show, so let's make sure to go out with a bang, huh? All right, now over the past couple of years, the use of artificial intelligence has risen dramatically in all aspects of our lives. I mean, we've all heard about ChatGPT, right? Maybe some of you are using it in your personal lives, maybe some of you are using it in business, but if you aren't already using AI in your business, honestly, it's only a matter of time. But if you aren't, maybe you're asking, how do I use AI in business? Okay, well, today, our experts are going to demystify AI and make it easy to understand. They're going to show you some of AI's capabilities as well as examples of how you can use it right now at zero cost to your dealership. So, let me introduce you to Fran O'Hagan, President and CEO of Pied Piper, which was founded in 2003 and helps brands and national retailer groups improve the omni-channel sales and service performance of their retailers, as well as Eric O'Hagan, the new Director of AI and Machine Learning Innovation and Integration for Pied Piper. Prior to joining Pied Piper in December, Eric held key roles in AI and machine learning and digital retailing with Porsche Cars North America, Tesla Inc., and Lucid Motors. So just as a final note before we begin, we do plan to have an audience Q&A at the end of the session, so please hold any questions for them until the end. But until then, Fran, Eric, you may take it away.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. So, use artificial intelligence today at no cost and be ready for tomorrow. Now, some of you guys may be familiar with Pied Piper, who we work for. We're not here to talk about that at all. We're here to talk about AI and your dealerships. So forget about Pied Piper for the time being. We have 5 items we're going to cover. The first is, why is this topic important? And I think some of you could probably tell us that also. Second is, what's happening with AI and machine learning right now? Third is examples of what AI can do right now, not at the dealership level, but period. Number 4, how can my dealership use AI right now, today, for free? And then lastly, how can my dealership be ready for tomorrow? So the first one, why is this topic important? So I want you guys to think back to the internet craze 25 years ago. Remember the sock puppets? Yeah? And remember the .com boom? And think about how many of those companies from that era are no longer around, right? But other ones became Google or became Amazon. And that is exactly what is happening right now. We're going through exactly the same sort of a transformation. In 2022, that's 2 or 3 years ago, you guys and your friends, you didn't use the term AI. It wasn't something that you really thought about. There were companies that were using it. Eric at Tesla absolutely was knee-deep in AI back then. But now, just 2 or 3 years later, everybody's talking about it. If you read, it'll be headlines in a newspaper. So back then, just a couple years ago, it was too complicated, too expensive, if it was even possible to use it. Today, AI tools like ChatGPT, which you've all heard of, and probably many of you actually use it, they can do things for free that would have been impossible just a couple years ago. So that is why this is so important. It's as if we're reliving the 1999, 2000, .com era. So I want to hand it over to Eric to talk about what's happening with AI and machine learning today.
So, first of all, we'll just demystify the acronyms here. AI, machine learning. When we're talking about AI, we're talking about machines performing tasks that humans can do. So in your life, probably all of you have heard of or used Siri or Alexa or facial recognition on your phone, or maybe a Tesla autopilot, something I was familiar with. Those are AI computers doing things that people typically could do. Computers typically aren't recognizing your face or driving your car, but now with modern AI technology, that is something that is possible. AI is doing things humans can do, but computer automated. Artificial intelligence. Machine learning, ML, is often sort of they're tossed out as if they're equivalent. There's a small difference. Machine learning it's ML, machine learning. That's machines improving their performance through the processing of massive amounts of data. This allows, just first of all, that's in your life, you use this as well, even if you're not aware of it. Your YouTube recommendations, Netflix recommendations, Google search results, these are all examples of technologies that are powered by machine learning, processing huge amounts of data to create actions that a person could not have done. You would not be able to look at all of the indexed Google search results or look at all of the YouTube videos and perform the calculations necessary to give all the recommendations to all the people. But a machine learning system can calculate all of the calculations necessary to do this. When you put them together, you get some of the amazing capabilities that AI tools like ChatGPT have today. So first of all, that's demystifying what we're talking about here. So the next big thing, the current big thing really, are LLMs. What are we talking about? Large language models. That's what ChatGPT is. So these are, it's popularized by ChatGPT, but ChatGPT is not the only one out there. In the news recently was DeepSeek. You might have heard of Claude. Google had one that was in the news last year for like making George Washington have a different skin color. You know, there's all sorts of different LLMs these days. But it was popularized by ChatGPT two or 3 years ago. These are created by training. I say in quotes because it's not like human training, but it's a training process, training a generative AI model with tons of data. That's that machine learning process. So these large language models, things like ChatGPT, they have essentially read, and again, I have it in quotes because they're not reading a book like us, but it's a computerized version of reading. They've essentially read almost everything ever published online. And that sounds kind of crazy, but it is actually true. Almost everything publicly available that you can find online, these companies have scraped and used it in their training set. They curate it, get rid of the bad data, and they use it to train their models. And the result is something incredible. You have capabilities that are way beyond traditional AI systems. So these big tech companies like OpenAI, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they use these AI models. They're created by spending hundreds of billions of dollars in R&D. These are not tiny, with some few exceptions, these are not tiny startups. Your average like Powersports dealership isn't going to create a large language model. These are created typically by gigantic tech companies who have the capability to spend hundreds of billions of dollars. Scraping all of the written word online and using that to train your model is not cheap. But the resultant capabilities allow the LLMs to act human, do human things. Again, back to that AI, what AI is. So these AIs can do things like writing creatively, solving problems, and understanding connections between concepts. You know, I have an example here where I asked ChatGPT to generate an image of the future AIM Expo of the year 2050 being held on the moon, and say hi to the AIM Expo 2025 because this is going on our presentation. And you can see, you know, it's a little bit small here, but it made this image. This is not an image that it found on the web. It wasn't on my hard drive. It generated this just from understanding what I said, and then it essentially painted with pixels this image, which, you know, like we were saying earlier, 2 or 3 years ago, this is inconceivable. There's no amount of money you could spend. You couldn't spend $100 billion and get this. Well, you could spend $100 billion to develop 2 years of technology and eventually have it here today, which is what has happened. But so, and here you can see also it followed up with, hi, AIM Expo 2025. Here's a glimpse into the 2050 AIM Expo. So, you know, these are things that traditionally only humans could do. Today, it's something that is available to be computer automated. This was generated in a matter of seconds. Try drawing that in a matter of seconds, or even typing. It types at like 10,000 words per minute. So this can get a little bit overwhelming, and there's plenty of people who are skeptical of this technology and afraid of the technology. Like we discussed, in the internet revolution, there were many companies that started up and were very excited about the internet. Some of them turned into Google. Many of those companies went out of business. Another thing is a lot of companies that existed already were put out of business by the disruption of new internet technologies that they couldn't adapt to. What we have found, what we believe is a much more likely scenario, and what we've seen so far, is that most people will use these AI tools to do a far better job than they could have done before without them. You won't be replaced by AI. You'll essentially be promoting yourself with the use of AI. So that's our take heart message. So to give you an example of what we're talking about, we're going to go through 3 of these examples here. The first is going to demonstrate the total mastery of language, not just language, but languages. And we'll also go over some examples that show that general understanding across domains, and talk a little bit about the productivity. We'll show the productivity superpowers that these tools give you. So the first example I'm going to show. Here, we'll start a new ChatGPT window. We're using ChatGPT today just because it's the most popular LLM that you've all heard of. I'm sure that every single one of you has heard of it.
Hands up if you have used ChatGPT. So
and if you haven't already,
half,
it's
maybe
this.
a third.
This is your sign to start giving it a look. And I'll show you how easy it is. So, you can talk to ChatGPT and just say, "Hey, how are things going?" And like I said, it acts like a person. It's able to respond intelligently. Oh, look, it remembered that I'm buying a home right now. It's asking if I need some tips on insurance and whatnot. And so, I could continue conversing with it. This is a feature that ChatGPT has where it can remember. You can tell it to remember some things about you, which can be helpful. But let's do something a little more advanced. Let's demonstrate those language capabilities like I mentioned. So here's a website that I pulled up earlier. I don't really know anything about this website. I know that it's written not in English. I don't know if any of you speak Japanese. I'm quite certain this is Japanese.
I saw AIM Expo.
Yes, right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this link and I'm going to take it back to ChatGPT. I'm just going to paste the link and I'm going to say, hey, can you tell me about what this page is saying? I don't speak this language. And one of the most incredible things about ChatGPT, because it has read all of that text online, not all of that text is English. A huge amount of that text is various other languages. It's not just the English language that's mastered, it's also Japanese, Spanish, variations of sub-variations of different languages. All of the biggest languages in the world, it can speak those fluently as well. And so here we see it says, let's make this a little bit bigger. This page discusses AIM Expo 2024, North America's largest motorcycle and powersports exhibition, held in Las Vegas Convention Center. So it's a web page about the AIM Expo, and it's not just Japanese, like I said, it's multiple languages. Here's another web page, just to give you a look at it. Again, I don't speak this language despite years of schooling. And if we paste in this link and we say, how about this one? It understands what I'm talking about. It understands the flow of the conversation that we've had so far. You can see it's asking for me to rate which response it has. This is part of the way that they keep these models up to date. They say, which of these is better? We'll just look at one of them. Here we see it says, this page provides a calendar of motorsports fairs scheduled worldwide in 2025. Notably, the AIM Expo is taking place in Las Vegas. We can confirm that is true. And so you can see, it's not just the English capabilities, it's multilingual capabilities. And of course, I could ask it to compose an essay for us, or write some sort of lyrics, or talk like a pirate, and something like that. But these multilingual capabilities are really interesting because suddenly language is no longer a barrier for you. You don't even particularly need to use Google Translate. You could have ChatGPT read say you get a message from a foreign supplier and they're not particularly fluent in English. You can just talk in your various respective native languages and have a moderator. So I'm going to talk about the multimodal capabilities next. So this is understanding across different domains, not just text but also visual. So I showed an example of this before. We could say, I'd like you to generate an image of two Pied Pipers on stage at the AIM Expo, giving a presentation about AI. So that's a pretty big request. If I asked you to draw a picture, it would take a little while. You can see how quickly this is going. I don't know if we'll time this, but maybe this will take like 10 seconds here. And in a matter of moments, it will have, again, you have to appreciate the immense achievement that this is. It's understood what I wrote. I didn't write this in a programming language. I didn't go through a user interface or anything. I just wrote this in English, plain English like any of you could write. And in a matter of moments, it'll generate this image, which looks like it's hanging. Here we go. And here's an image. This is not an image that exists anywhere on the internet. This was just generated on the fly right now. This isn't on my hard drive or anywhere. Here's an image of two Pied Pipers on stage at AIM Expo. It looks like three. Sometimes they get the numbers wrong. Giving a presentation about AI. Let me know if you'd like any modifications. And we could follow up and we could say, change the color scheme or make it actually two instead of three. Again, this is demonstrating that these language models, because they have an understanding of all that text, what's written into that text is more than just, student essays. It's books about photography. It's books about science, books about how the world works. And they generate an understanding that is generalized. So they understand how to make an image if you ask it. They understand what things sound like. If you say, talk to me about the sounds of birds, it's this particular bird in spring. It can talk and it can extol the virtues of that bird's noise. And so I'm going to talk about one last thing here. This is a different tool. So like I said, it's not just ChatGPT that is using large language models. Here's another tool. This is Notebook LM. This is a tool offered by Google. This software lets you upload some documentation. In this case, I just stripped one of the pages from the AIM Expo website that had a list of the various talks that would be given, including this one. And I gave that document to the LLM, uploaded it, and then had it generate a podcast. This is a feature of this Notebook LM. I told it to generate a podcast, and in a matter of minutes, I think it took like 3 to 4 minutes total to generate this podcast after I told it to do so, it generated a 15-minute long podcast. We're going to listen to a snippet of it here and judge for yourself the quality.
Welcome to this deep dive into AIM Expo 2025, dealer education.
Oh, cool.
We're going to explore all the sessions designed to help dealerships, like yours thrive.
Okay.
And get this deep dive is actually part of a presentation happening right now at AIM Expo.
Wow.
Led by Fran and Eric O'Hagan.
Oh, wow. That's very meta.
So to everyone in that live audience, big hello from the deep dive.
It's quite meta, isn't it?
So that sounds like two normal people. It's definitely intelligible. It's not Microsoft Sam. It's even much better than things like Siri that you have on your phone. And again, this took 2 or 3 minutes to generate. This is a 15-minute podcast. I mean, we can go into halfway
through. For dealerships,
right.
Stocking the right bikes and parts at the right time without overspending.
It just goes on and on. It's 15 minutes. So you couldn't pay the very best, the fastest podcasters, I guess they're talking in 2x speed and recording and slowing down. You couldn't pay them to do that. It's impossible. This is an example of one of those capabilities that these tools unlock. That's a complete game changer. 15-minute podcast generated in three minutes. We've talked at Pied Piper about taking some of our press releases and creating some podcast materials for them. You can do the same with your companies. So again, this is an example of these productivity superpowers that these tools unlock.
Okay, so let's shift gears. Well, first of all, how many of you work in a dealership? Let's talk about specifically how can you use these tools right now, examples. But first of all, how should you think of ChatGPT at your dealership? Well, think of it as a super smart, well-read, speedy colleague who's great at these 3 things. At writing, ChatGPT is, and by the way, we're going to keep saying ChatGPT, and that's what I suggest you use, but there are other options. So if you really get into this, you can try the other options too. So ChatGPT is excellent at writing. It's super fast. It's customized. Anytime you're writing or your employees are writing emails or writing texts, it's excellent at it. And we're going to go through some examples. Number 2, creative. Social media posts, ads. It comes up with all kinds of ideas. If you've ever tried to come up with social media ideas for ads or print ads or radio ads or whatever they are, not only can it come up with the ad, you can say, hey, I want 3 different ideas. And number 3, and I would tell you that this is probably the least used feature of ChatGPT, but may in fact be one of the most powerful, analyst. You can upload PDFs, Excel files, comma-separated value files from your DMS or from other places, and you can have it analyze it for you. And we're also going to give you examples of that. Now, when you get home, what I encourage you to do is encourage your team to experiment with this, to use it. Don't be intimidated. We're going to show you how easy it is, and I'm also going to tell you this. You can use ChatGPT to teach you how to use ChatGPT. So put it to work and have the audacity to ask. You'll probably find there are all kinds of things that it can do for you that surprise you. So ask it for help. Writing, creative, and analysis. Those are the 3 that I want you to think about. And the last, if you like it, experiment with these other 2 tools. So Eric, Notebook LM, that's the one that does the podcast?
Yep.
Does it cost a lot of money to use that?
It's free. HeyGen is an interesting one. Allows you to create digital avatars. We could make a digital Fran that spoke Mandarin, and we could speak to Chinese people with that. Or we could get a much more attractive person and still call them Fran O'Hagan, but they could have your voice. We could clone your voice. Claude does something very similar to ChatGPT. Perplexity is a version that focuses on search results. There's all sorts of examples of these.
But you get the idea. For now, ChatGPT. That's what you're going to experiment with for now. All right, and you heard Eric say this, and I'm going to reiterate it. Reassure your employees, not replaced, promoted. They're going to do wonderful things. AI isn't going to replace them. It's going to make them super productive. And I want you to think about treating AI as a shiny new power drill. If you never had a power drill, imagine. Not everything needs a hole, right? I mean, there's still plenty of things that work just great without AI. But be ready, because whatever seems impossible today with AI, probably this year it may be possible. And, next year or the year after, it may not only be possible, but free and easy to do.
All right, so let's go back and go through those examples.
Yes.
Okay, let's pull up ChatGPT again.
So I said writing, creative, and analysis, right? Let's go through specific examples for your store. So let's start with writing. And it's obvious that one idea for writing would be if I'm a salesperson and I'm responding to a web inquiry, let's say, I can use this to craft a perfect email or a perfect text, right? But that's not the example I'm going to use. I'm going to use a different example. Let's say I'm the service manager, and let's say that I want to send out an email to customers who I haven't seen in the past year, right? Now, I may have a DMS that can spit out that list of customers, but if I don't, I could actually use ChatGPT to generate that list. But we're not going to talk about that part. We're going to talk about the writing part. So Eric, and by the way, I'm going to say, there are some motorcycle dealerships that are super sophisticated. And there are other motorcycle dealerships that are, I would lovingly say mom and pop. And by the way, I love motorcycle dealerships. I've bought more than 100 motorcycles in my life. Probably the reason I'm here right now is because I love this industry. I'm rooting for you guys. So what I want to say in this prompt, I want to say, at my small motorcycle dealership, create an email to service customers I haven't seen in over a year. And while Eric's typing that, one comment. What I would say is most impressive about this technology is it understands. When I say small dealership, it's going to read into that. It understands what that means. It means I don't have 15 people on staff who can be worrying about this.
Let's have a look.
So, email, subject, we miss you, special offer for your next service. Hi customer, it's been a while since we've seen you at your dealership name. I mean, you get the idea. To welcome you back, we're offering a special discount or incentive. Schedule your service now, book now, here's the phone number. And if you have the Excel file with the data on it, or you have a comma separated value file, you can feed that to it and it'll generate the actual emails, every single one. So this is just one example. This is the writing. And by the way, you can do all kinds of, just for fun, does anybody here like heavy metal? All right. You can say, write this email as a heavy metal song, and it'll do it. I mean, you name it. As Eric said, talk like a pirate.
Yeah, it's doing pretty good writing it right now, actually.
Out on the highway, your ride's growling low, been too long since you gave it a go, dust on the tires, rust in the gears, we ain't seen you in over a year.
Just imagine how long it would take you to, if you're an amazing lyricist, perhaps you could do it, but imagine how long it would take you to come up with that.
Right. And I mean, they're verses. So you get the idea, right? Okay, that's writing. Eric, let's shift gears to creative. And let's see. Let's come up with a parts department idea, right? So for the prompt, Eric, let's say I'm having a helmet sale at my motorcycle dealership this weekend, Friday and Saturday. Create a social media post.
Wow.
Helmet sale this weekend, Friday and Saturday only. Protect your head and your wallet. Friday and Saturday, we're slashing prices on helmets at dealership name, whether you need an upgrade or a fresh lid, full face, modular, half shell. Don't miss out. Sale is over. It's gone. You get the idea. Now, are these always going to be perfect the first time? No. But remember what I said. Think of ChatGPT as a super smart colleague or friend. So they just gave you a first draft. Maybe you want to tweak some words, or maybe you want to say, I want to try it again, make it friendlier. By the way, other things you can do is you can say, like, none of you guys are interested in politics. You can say, write my ad with a slant to be super progressive or super conservative. You can do that too, and it understands exactly what you mean, and it'll do it.
I told it to change it to Wednesday and make it for gloves.
There you go. All right, last one, and our last one is analysis, right? And I want to give you an example of using ChatGPT to teach you how to use ChatGPT. So Eric, let's use this as a prompt. Let's say, at my small motorcycle dealership, give me ideas how I can use ChatGPT to upload reports for you to analyze without requiring complicated software.
Let's have a look.
If you want to upload reports to ChatGPT to analyze without dealing with complicated software, here's some simple practical approaches. Use comma-separated values, Excel or PDF uploads. You can drag and drop reports directly here. I can extract key insights, highlight trends, summarize findings. Works great for service history, sales reports, inventory tracking, customer interactions.
See, this isn't like a pre-canned list of what you can do. It's saying specifically.
Right.
We told it small dealership.
And Eric, let's say, give me examples for the service department. Here are practical ways your motorcycle dealership service department can use ChatGPT to analyze reports, identifies customers overdue for maintenance, generate personalized follow-up, suggest upsell opportunities.
All you have to do is just upload your data. You have it in a Word document, you have it in an Excel file somewhere.
You get the idea. So writing, creative analysis, that's where you start. And get your employees experimenting with it. And yes, this is generational. The world looks different when you're 25 than when you're 60. So you may very well have some employees who say, hey, check this out. Did you know it can do this? I used Perplexity and this is what I found. Let them loose. All right. Now, last topic. How can my dealership be ready for tomorrow? Reassure your employees, again, what does it say? Not replaced, promoted. Treat AI as a shiny new tool, yes? Now, the last item, what about vendors who show up at your dealership wanting to sell AI stuff or wanting to sell solutions that feature AI? You guys right here, you are not intimidated by AI anymore. You saw how you can use it. It's dead simple. You're going to use ChatGPT to teach you how to use ChatGPT. So you're not intimidated by it. So I want you to do this. I want you to ask yourself, does this vendor solution that someone's trying to sell you, does it generate profitability directly? Or is it something that I can already do myself? I mean, you saw examples of what you can do. Some vendor solutions, by the way, we work with the car guys too, and the car guys are all over this stuff. So there are all kinds of vendor solutions. Some of them are really good. Some of them are valuable, and you will see some of those. You'll see some where, yes, it does generate profit directly. But for other ones, what I would leave you with is no shiny objects. Don't get distracted by the shiny objects. And just because it has the word, the initials AI in it, you guys aren't going to be intimidated by that one bit. You're going to say, yeah, that's cool, but does it generate profitability for me directly? So what we covered, why was this topic important? It's important because this is, again, the internet revolution. What's happening with AI and machine learning? Eric gave you a bunch of examples. And by the way, most of what we've been talking about is these large language models. There are all kinds of AI things going on that aren't large language models. And I mean, Tesla's autonomous driving is an example of that. We gave you examples of what you can do right now, right? Writing, creative analysis. That's how you can use it for free today. And how can you be ready for tomorrow? Does it generate profitability? You're not intimidated by it. Yes? So with that, and by the way, if you happen to be interested in what we do, not AI, that QR code will take you to the stuff that we do. But do I have questions about anything? Yes?
So I've kind of played around with it a little bit where I try to generate pictures, and I noticed I haven't used ChatGPT. I've used Genesis. What is it?
Sure. Yeah. The Google one.
Yeah. Maybe? Or Copilot.
Gemini or yeah.
Gemini. Yeah. And everything that you get is the words are just all just
messed up.
Yeah.
They call them hallucinations sometimes. They'll add things that the AI is thinking about, and they don't do very good with those words typically. So we talked about this is a new power drill that you get, and not like we said, you got this new power drill. Not everything needs to have a hole drilled in it now. So not every time when you need to generate an image with AI, if that's what you want to do, not every time you should use it to generate an image that needs text. Because maybe right now the text doesn't come out well, so you try to say like, generate this image, don't use text. Just generate, like if I want a dolphin and it needed to say my logo, just generate the dolphin, I'll put my logo underneath it. But the other thing to remember is, that's where it is today. 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, they didn't have those capabilities at all. They didn't even exist. So you might just wake up in 6 months and find that that's or 10 years from now, you'll think, oh yeah, I remember really early on when it was messed up with text. It almost immediately fixed that. I can guarantee we will continue to see these advancements in these capabilities as they continue to advance.
So that AIM Expo 2050, was that something that it spit out, or is that something that you had to go back in and
just like the other
that looked perfect.
Yeah, just like the other one that I demonstrated in real time generating, it was the exact same process.
Yeah.
And there are some tools that are better at that image generation than others. OpenAI's version is pretty good.
Okay.
I know there's this other, Stable Diffusion is another one I've heard of that's a bit more advanced. There are all sorts of different services that use this. The underlying technology is very similar. You use transformer models, large language models, but you just have to sort of look around. Again, to use the power drill analogy, you'll find which drill works for you. You might have to buy a cheap one and find this is a piece of crap, and I need to get the Makita instead of the Ryobi, not to take sides.
You guys, you remind me of something else. It's the AI isn't always right. You definitely want to read what you get. I've had some examples of that, like with math. You guys, if you measure percentage going up or percentage coming down, like wholesale price going up or MSRP coming down, there are examples where AI doesn't get the math right. So treat it as the first draft, but you definitely want to read through it.
Yeah, you can think of it as a really smart, particularly when you're using these chat interfaces. Think of it as like a really intelligent remote employee that you can only interact with through chat. But you wouldn't just completely let them run everything. You're definitely going to give it a quick look.
So if you take that email and send it, put in the pertinent information and send it out, it doesn't have like created in ChatGPT.
No. Yeah, like we showed earlier, the interface is just like you saw. So, if I just want to just copy directly what we have here, it's just text. It's made it for me. You don't have to export it through some feature. It's not some function like that. I'm just Control-C, and I can just take it to a text notepad and just paste it in. It's simple as that.
Yes.
I've been using ChatGPT for a couple of years just to kind of support that. What I found, kind of to your question, that's really cool is the more you use it, the more that it learns. So the more that, and then it also saves, your different topics that you have. So you might reference to that easier. But after using it for a couple of years, I'm to the point where I can say, hey, remember this, and it can pick up. So the more you use it, I think the more effective it is. At least it has been for me. One question I have is that, when you get on there now, they've got these different sections, like, you saw it on there. I was just on mine on my phone. But do you have to start there, or can it kind of, will it know where to go? Because I'm not really using that.
Sorry.
Where it'll kind of say the analyzing, or it'll kind of give you 4 or 5 different options to start with based on criteria.
Yeah. So you don't, it doesn't necessarily have to start with choosing what it suggests. You can create your own suggestion for it. It's specifically with ChatGPT, they keep it really simple. It's under the hood. You have this language model that's just waiting for you to tell it something. It's listening, it's saying, soon enough, he's going to type in a message for me, and based on whatever your message is, it will do stuff. It has some capabilities. For example, if your message says, write me some Python code that, does that, do fizzbuzz in Python. If any programmers are in here, they'll know what that is. So it'll open up like it'll use some tools, to do some calculations on its own. It has access to like a calculator to sort of help with those calculations. But in general, it's just waiting for a text input, and it's going to give you a text output.
Or you can speak.
Yeah, or you can speak. It can even speak to you as well. You know, you can listen to it saying what it did.
Here's a simple implementation of FizzBuzz in Python. Python for I in range 1.
And so on and so forth. Particularly on the phone app version, I use the dictation all the time. I'll have it listen and I'll just ramble on for 10 minutes, and then it'll be like, it seems like you're having a really bad day at work, Eric. Like, here's what I think that you should really be looking for.
It summarizes it really nicely. Sometimes, too, it gives me too much information, and then I can say simplify it. And
exactly.
It's good.
And I mean, you can use this. This is just like a personal example, but if let's say you were on a motorcycle ride from here to San Francisco, or from here to Monterey, where we're located. You could say, we're going on a motorcycle ride from Las Vegas to Monterey. You know, what route should we take to have the most twisties? Good luck from here. And where should we stop for lunch? And it'll answer those questions for you. Or we're in the Pyrenees, going from Barcelona to Bordeaux. What should our route be if we want to ride into twisties?
The skill we're describing right now is sometimes referred to as prompt engineering. You may have heard that before. It's like the skill of knowing how to tell someone what to do. In this case, the someone is a robot text chatbot. But it's the same skill as if I was telling you exactly the direction. You need to go to my house, you need to unlock the door, upstairs in the closet is where the backpack. You need to be specific in order to get your outcome that you want. So it's the same deal with using ChatGPT. You need to be specific, and if you are, then your prompt engineering skills will see you through.
Kind of to what the last gentleman said about when you go to Google, you can't find what you need anymore. In the early days of Google, you would type what you wanted and you would find it, but it's gotten so monetized that there's a lot of other things there. So these tools are mostly free right now, but how long before they become monetized and we start to get things in there? And then do you have any strategies of how we can be early in the monetization to increase traffic and things like that?
Sure. So you're right, most of these do have some free version. There's the free version of ChatGPT. There's also the paid version. It's like $20 a month. I remember when it first came out, I immediately got it because I was already using the free version. I loved it. And then everyone was like, why would you pay $20 a month? Of the people who are aware of ChatGPT these days, I would say most of the people who start using it a little bit, they will tell you like, those $20 a month that I pay, that is like some of the best return on value of anything I pay for. The capability increases that you get are worth the value that you give them. So they have basically tiered levels of service. They have better models that are a little bit more intelligent, or they higher rate limits. You know, if you just start asking 1,000 questions a day, eventually they'll say like, sorry, you've like asked too many questions for today. You pay them $20 a month, your limits are higher. So they offer different levels. For today, I would say you just got to dip your toes in the water. This is sort of how I started off using this as a tool. I dipped my toes in the water, started using it free. Luckily, they didn't even have a paid version. Otherwise, I would have maybe just jumped in too early. You take your time, figure out how it works for you. You don't buy, like, again, back to the drill analogy. You're not going to go out and buy a $4,000, like, high-end, high-speed, low-drag power drill. No, you're going to go and buy a, like, $50 Ryobi and give it a little work if you're an entry-level woodworker. And then maybe when you're ready, then you go up the ladder. The other thing is a lot of the services that are offered that have chat, AI interfaces, they use the same technology. They're usually using the same API as these tools. And so they'll have different cost structures where it's based on usage or based on time. So you just have to go back to what we said earlier, figure out is this generating profit for me today? If it's free, that's probably an easy question to answer.
Or $20.
If it's $20 a month, that's a pretty low bar to clear at that point. I would definitely recommend giving it a try, and I suspect that most people will find that, you know what, I'm using it enough. The extra features that the plus version for $20 a month for like ChatGPT, I think Claude has the same thing, are probably worth it for me. If you use it a lot, it ends up being worth it. That's just my 2 cents.
You can try using it to write dirty limericks for your wife or your husband.
Yeah, all sorts of things. Another question in the back?
I was a little bit later, so I don't know if you actually covered this, but would you recommend exploring like DeepSeek at this point, or is that more of a security concern?
Sure. So DeepSeek is the latest, greatest, newest headline in AI right now. It's a Chinese-developed model, and there are some concerns about if you're sending your data to the cloud-hosted version of DeepSeek, what's happening with that. There were those concerns, and there still are those concerns even for OpenAI, a US-based model. So all of these services, they all come from these tech companies where sales as a service, software as a service companies are all the rage. So they all have these enterprise options when you start paying for it, where you can say, don't save any of my data. So you can take their word on that, say, don't save any of my data. With DeepSeek, there's also the ability to, in particular, with DeepSeek and some other LLMs, large language models, they are open models where you can take them offline and you can run them on your own system. And then that way, there's no information going off into the cloud to someone else. Meta has a model, formerly Facebook, it's called Llama, that is the same way. There's a French company, Mistral, that has another open source model.
And Perplexity says that you can access DeepSeek, use it through Perplexity, and it will stay in the U.S. also.
Right, because they must have taken it offline and they're not sending it through DeepSeek's cloud. So it's just like any other, particularly if it's through a vendor that you're using, you have to make your own judgment. You have to say, do I trust them with my data? Otherwise, if you take it a little bit further and get a more advanced, then you can look into having a locally run model. Those are generally a little less capable than these cloud models like OpenAI's ones, which are running on like nuclear-powered Microsoft Azure cloud clusters and have like $10,000 worth of server racks running for just one thing. Like, it's a little bit more cost-effective to get to use these cloud models sometimes based on the capabilities you get. So yeah, long story short, it's worth looking into and worth being aware of, but it's like anything else. You just have to do your homework on what your vendors are using. Make sure that you're comfortable with the risks involved, and if you trust them, that they won't use your data if they say that they're not going to.
Can you talk about the agents and the super user that's coming?
Sorry?
The agents that are created and the
Sure.
super users?
Yeah.
Do you guys like clusters when you buy them? Like clusters of agents? Or do you like just one user?
We don't typically, at Pied Piper, we focus on turning shoppers into buyers for dealers. So we're not as focused on we're not engaged with that as much. But I can say with regards to agents, that's another one of these features. Like I've described before, like search was not a thing with ChatGPT before, image generation was not a thing. One of the new upcoming features that are offered are these agents. And that's what we're talking about when we say agents, is telling the model, hey, I want you to every Friday send me a message, or I want you to go off and look through the internet and do some research for me and come back and tell me what you find, where you're having the model act on its own, prompt itself, and do things on its own. Those capabilities are pretty new, so it's another one of those fields where you have to just dip your toes in it slowly to figure out what works for you. Again, I would go back to what we said before. Does this actually produce revenue? Does this increase profitability for me, or is this a toy, or is this just interesting? That's all I can say about that for now.
All right, that's all we have time for today, but thank you again so much for coming out. We hope you enjoyed this AIM Expo, and everyone have a safe trip home.
Thanks a bunch.